The morning sun struggled to break through the thick winter clouds as Leah Carter pulled her coat tighter around her body. The bitter cold seeped through the worn-out fabric, a silent reminder of the struggles she had been facing lately. As a single mother, every day was a battle, working 2 jobs, balancing bills, and making sure her 7-year-old son, Noah, had everything he needed. Today was no different. Leah was rushing to get Noah to school before heading to her morning shift at a local diner. She gripped his small, gloved hand as they hurried down the sidewalk. "Mummy, can we get hot chocolate after school?" Noah asked, his voice hopeful. Leah forced a smile. "We'll see, baby." In reality, she wasn't sure if she could afford the extra expense. As they neared the school gate, a gust of wind swept past, sending a small, black leather wallet tumbling across the icy sidewalk. Leah instinctively reached down and grabbed it before it could disappear into the slushy puddle near the curb. It was thick and well-worn, with a golden emblem embossed on the front. "Mommy, whose is it?" Noah asked curiously. Leah flipped it open, revealing a stack of neatly arranged cash, multiple credit cards, and an ID card tucked behind a plastic sleeve. The name on the card read, Michael DePa. She didn't recognize the name, but the photo on the ID looked oddly familiar. A tall man with a serious yet charismatic expression. There was something about him. Noah peeked over her arm. "Wow, that's a lot of money. Are we keeping it?" Leah's chest tightened at his words. She was barely making ends meet. Her rent was overdue, her electricity bill was pending, and her car was on its last leg. A few $100s could change things, even if just for a little while. Her fingers hovered over the wallet, her mind waging a silent war. Would anyone even know if she kept it? She shook the thought away, feeling a pang of guilt. This wasn't who she was. Taking a deep breath, she zipped up the wallet and tucked it safely into her coat pocket. "No, sweetie, we don't take what isn't ours," she said, ruffling his hair. "We'll find the owner." Noah's face scrunched up in thought. "But how do we find him?" That was a good question. She had work soon and no time to play detective. The ID had an address listed, but it was in a wealthier part of the city, far from where she lived. The bus ride alone would take over an hour. Leah sighed. Returning it wouldn't be easy, but she knew she had to do the right thing. "I'll figure it out after work," she murmured, mostly to herself. After dropping Noah off at school, Leah rushed to her job at the diner. It was a slow morning, giving her time to think about the wallet sitting in her locker. Her co-worker, Jessie, noticed her distant expression. "You look lost in thought. Everything okay?" Leah hesitated, then told her about the wallet. Jessie let out a low whistle. "Man, that's a jackpot. You sure you want to give it back?" Leah frowned. "Of course, it's not mine." Jessie smirked. "You're a better person than most." Leah forced a smile, but deep down, doubt gnawed at her. Was she really making the right choice? By the time her shift ended, the evening sun was already dipping below the skyline. Leah retrieved the wallet from her locker, took a deep breath, and hailed a cab. She didn't know it yet, but this simple act of honesty was about to change her life forever. To be continued. Leah sat in the back seat of the cab, gripping the wallet tightly in her hands. She kept glancing at the ID card, the name Michael DePa staring back at her. The address printed on it was in an upscale part of the city, the kind of neighborhood where people didn't worry about overdue rent or stretching a meal to last 2 days. The driver, a middle-aged man with a thick New York accent, noticed her nervous expression. "You all right, miss?" Leah hesitated before nodding. "Yeah, just returning something important." The cab weaved through the streets, gradually leaving behind the familiar small apartments and corner stores, replacing them with high-rise buildings, luxury boutiques, and spotless sidewalks. Leah felt out of place, suddenly hyper-aware of her worn-out coat and scuffed boots. "What if they think I stole it?" she thought, anxiety gnawing at her stomach. She imagined some rich businessman opening the door, eyeing her with suspicion, maybe even calling the police. Would they believe her? The cab pulled up in front of an elegant apartment building, with a doorman in a navy blue uniform standing by the entrance. Leah swallowed hard. This was way out of her world. After paying the fare, a painful dent in her wallet, she stepped out, adjusting her coat as she approached the doorman. "Excuse me, I'm looking for Michael Depar." The doorman, an older gentleman with sharp eyes, scanned her quickly before nodding. "Are you expected?" Leah hesitated. No, but I found something of his and I wanted to return it." The doorman's gaze flickered with curiosity. He spoke into a sleek intercom system before turning back to her. "Take the elevator to the penthouse." Leah's stomach flipped. Penthouse? She stepped into the golden-lit lobby, feeling like she was walking into a completely different universe. Everything smelled expensive. The elevator doors slid open, and Leah stepped inside, pressing the button for the top floor. As the elevator climbed, her heartbeat quickened. What was she about to walk into? With a soft ding, the doors opened to a massive modern apartment. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed a breathtaking view of the city skyline, and the furniture looked like something out of a magazine. Before she could fully take it in, footsteps echoed from the hallway. A tall figure emerged, a man dressed in designer sweats, his sharp features instantly recognizable. Leah's breath hitched. Michael Depar. Or, as realization slammed into her, Big Shaq, the viral rapper, the comedian, the man behind Man's Not Hot. Leah's mind blanked. She was standing in Big Shaq's penthouse. He studied her for a second before speaking in his deep, unmistakable voice. "You found my wallet?" Leah snapped back to reality and quickly held it out. Yeah, I found it near my son's school this morning." Shaq took the wallet, flipping it open. His eyes flicked over the contents before letting out a deep chuckle. "You're honest, you know that?" Leah shifted uncomfortably. "Well, it's just the right thing to do." He shook his head, still grinning. "Most people wouldn't. I had cash in here. Could have been gone." Leah didn't know what to say. Then, before she could process what was happening, Shaq turned and walked to a side table, grabbed something, and came back. He held out a few $100 bills to her. "For your trouble?" Leah's eyes widened. "Oh, no, I can't take that." Shaq tilted his head, amused. "Why not?" Leah hesitated. Why not? Because it felt wrong. Because people like her weren't used to receiving things without a fight. Shaq seemed to read her thoughts. "You don't got to feel guilty. You did something honest. This is just appreciation." Still, Leah hesitated. Shaq let out a dramatic sigh. "All right, then tell me this. What do you do?" Leah blinked. "Do? For work?" "Oh, I work at a diner." Shaq's eyebrows lifted. "You like it?" Leah gave a small smile. "It pays the bills." He studied her for a long moment, then his grin widened. "Tell you what, how about I give you a better offer?" Leah's stomach flipped. A better offer? She had no idea that her life was about to change in a way she never imagined. To be continued. Leah's heart pounded as she stared at Big Shaq, the man who had just casually offered her something. A better offer? What did he mean? She shifted uncomfortably, gripping her coat. "What kind of offer?" Shaq leaned against the sleek marble kitchen counter, arms crossed, a playful smirk dancing on his face. "You ever thought about doing something different?" Leah frowned. "Different? Like what?" He shrugged. Something that ain't slaving away at a diner for tips. Leah hesitated. She wasn't used to people offering her opportunities. Most of her life had been about surviving, taking care of her son, stretching every paycheck, and making ends meet. The idea of something different felt foreign. "Look, man's not hot, but I'm serious," Shaq chuckled. "You got good energy, honest people, hard to come by, I like that." Leah raised an eyebrow. "So? What are you saying?" Shaq studied her for a second before grabbing his phone. He tapped the screen a few times, then turned it toward her. A job listing was pulled up. "My cousin runs a high-end event service. They do catering, VIP hosting, all that. He's always looking for reliable people." Leah blinked. "Wait, are you offering me a job?" Shaq grinned. "Well, I ain't giving it to you for free. You'd have to work, but it pays way better than a diner, and you'd meet some solid people." Leah's head spun. Was this really happening? She bit her lip, her mind racing. The diner job wasn't great, but it was stable. What if this was too good to be true? What if it didn't work out? As if reading her thoughts, Shaq leaned forward, resting his elbows on the counter. "Listen, I know it's random, but sometimes life throws things your way, and you got to grab them before they're gone." Leah swallowed. Was this one of those moments? I need to think about it," she finally said. Shaq nodded, his expression understanding. "Of course, no pressure. Just don't let fear make the choice for you." Those words hit deep. Leah had spent years making choices out of fear. Fear of failing, fear of losing what little she had, fear of the unknown. Was it time to take a chance? A call that changed everything. That night, back in her tiny apartment, Leah sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Her son, Aidan, was asleep in the next room, his soft snores the only sound in the apartment. She glanced at the $100 bills Shaq had given her, sitting untouched on the coffee table. She hadn't wanted to take the money, but Shaq had insisted. "Use it for something good," he'd said. Leah picked up her phone and pulled up the job listing. The salary was nearly double what she made at the diner. Her hands trembled as she dialed the number Shaq had given her. It rang once, twice. Then a deep voice answered. "This is Marcus. Who's this?" Leah took a deep breath. "Hi, my name is Leah. Big Shaq said I should call you about a job." There was a pause, then Marcus chuckled. "Ah, so you're the one. He told me about you. Honest girl, yeah?" Leah smiled slightly. "I try to be." "Good. Let's meet tomorrow. Let's see if this is the right fit." A new beginning. The next afternoon, Leah stood in front of an upscale downtown hotel, her nerves buzzing. Marcus was a tall, well-dressed man in his 40s, his sharp eyes studying her as they sat across from each other in the hotel lounge. "Tell me about yourself," he said. Leah hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I'm a single mum. I work hard. I don't cut corners, and I need a better job." Marcus leaned back, nodding. "I respect that." He explained the position, working at private events, ensuring guests were taken care of, handling high-profile clients. It was fast-paced, but rewarding. "Think you can handle it?" he asked. Leah swallowed her nerves and nodded. "I can." Marcus studied her for a moment, then smiled. "All right, let's give it a shot." Leah's heart soared. She had no idea where this would lead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. To be continued. Leah stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the crisp black blazer Marcus had given her. It felt strange, like she was wearing someone else's life. She had spent years in stained aprons, taking orders, cleaning up messes, and working double shifts for barely enough money to survive. And now? She was about to walk into a world she had never belonged to. Aidan peeked into the room, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Mommy, are you going somewhere fancy?" Leah smiled, kneeling down to smooth his messy hair. "Kind of, buddy. It's my first day at a new job." Aidan's face lit up. "Does that mean we can get pizza more often?" She laughed, hugging him tightly. "Maybe." But deep down, she knew this was more than just about pizza. This was about giving her son a better life. Welcome to the big leagues. Marcus had arranged for Leah to shadow one of his best employees, a woman named Jasmine, who had been working in the event industry for years. As soon as Leah stepped into the massive five-star hotel ballroom, she felt out of place. Crystal chandeliers, silk-draped tables, and people who looked like they had never worried about a bill in their life. Jasmine, a tall, confident woman in her 30s, greeted her with a quick nod. "You ready?" she asked, barely stopping to make eye contact. Leah swallowed. "Yeah." Jasmine handed her a clipboard. "Good, because this world moves fast and we don't babysit." Leah quickly learned that running a VIP event was nothing like working at the diner. Everything had to be perfect. Glasses had to be spotless. Candles had to be lit at the right moment. Guests had to be treated like royalty without ever making them feel like they were being served. The unexpected guest. As Leah moved through the ballroom, double-checking details, she suddenly froze. Across the room, surrounded by a group of well-dressed men, stood Big Shaq. Her heart jumped. What was he doing here? He hadn't mentioned attending an event. He had only said she should take the job. As if sensing her stare, Shaq glanced up and grinned. He excused himself from his group and strolled over. "Leah, looking sharp, I see." Leah tried to stay professional. "I wasn't expecting to see you here." Shaq chuckled. "Well, my guy Marcus runs a solid operation. A lot of big names roll through here. Thought I'd stop by, see how you're holding up." Leah felt a mix of gratitude and nervousness. It was one thing to be offered an opportunity. It was another to have the person who helped you watching your every move. An uncomfortable encounter. Just as Shaq was about to say something else, a man in a navy suit stepped beside him. "Shaq, my man, been a minute?" Leah glanced at the man. He was in his late 40s, with slicked back hair and an expensive watch that probably cost more than her entire apartment. Shaq's expression stiffened. "Carter?" Something about the way Shaq said his name made Leah uneasy. Carter's eyes flicked to her, scanning her like she was furniture. "And who's this?" he asked, a slow smirk forming. Leah hated the way he looked at her. Before she could speak, Shaq stepped slightly in front of her. "She works here, Carter. That's all you need to know." Carter chuckled, raising his hands in mock innocence. "Relax, big guy. Just making conversation." But Leah could tell it wasn't just conversation. She had seen men like him before, the kind who thought money gave them power over people, the kind who saw women like her as nothing more than a game. As Carter walked away, Leah exhaled. "Who was that?" Shaq sighed. "Trouble." A test of strength. As the night progressed, Leah tried to shake off the weird encounter. She had a job to do, but just as she was refilling champagne glasses at the VIP section, she felt a hand lightly touch her waist. She turned sharply. It was Carter. "You're working too hard," he said, his voice smooth like oil. "Why don't you take a little break? Sit with me for a drink." Leah's stomach turned. "I'm working." Carter smirked. "Come on, don't be like that." She felt her pulse rise. She had dealt with men like this before. At the diner, she had always been forced to smile, to laugh off comments, to swallow her discomfort because the customer was always right. But here? Here she wasn't a waitress. Here she had a choice. Taking a deep breath, she stepped back and met Carter's gaze head-on. I said no. A flicker of surprise crossed Carter's face. Then he chuckled. Feisty, I like that. Before Leah could respond, a shadow loomed beside her. Shaq. Walk, away. His voice was low, dangerous. Carter held up his hands again, grinning. All right, no need for drama. As he walked away, Leah let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Shaq turned to her. You okay? She nodded, but her hands were still shaking. You handled that well, Shaq said, his voice softer. Not everyone does. Leah exhaled. I'm done letting people walk over me. A slow smile spread across Shaq's face. Good. The night's lesson. By the end of the night, Leah was exhausted, but she felt different. She had stood her ground, she had done her job, and for the first time she didn't feel small. Marcus patted her shoulder as she clocked out. You did good tonight. Leah smiled, the weight of the night settling in. Maybe she really could do this. As she stepped outside into the cool night air, her phone buzzed, a text from Shaq. Proud of you. Keep going. Leah looked up at the sky, a slow smile forming. For the first time in a long time, she felt like her life was just beginning, to be continued.